Year of the Spear? I don't think so. Not with these talents. You'd think that after so long they would be able to do survival properly. And hey, some of the things are looking kind of cool, but will they all be cool by the Dragonflight's release date? Will we have a proper spec designed to do proper damage? Or is it gonna be weird? That's what we are going to be looking at today in this survival coverage of the beta, with all the buffs and nerfs rolling around from week to week. Numbers are still a little bit irrelevant because we don't know exactly how many buffs we're gonna get, how many nerfs we're gonna get, but at least we can talk about how the talents function. And they do, maybe they don't, I don't know. But before we get into it, if you like the type of content that we do, where we do daily videos covering classes and doing a lot of other stuff on the channel, like tier lists, like main videos, like podcasts and news coverages and opinion pieces soon to come, by the way, consider becoming our Patreon. Our Patreon platform directly supports all the content that we do, with all the cool quality upgrades that we've been able to do over the years, thanks to you guys' support. Everybody who's been contributing to us for a long time, we are super grateful for it. And if you would decide to become a Patreon, you would be supporting this content, making sure that we can actually keep doing this, because Patreon does actually help with that. Plus, you will have a couple of tiers to check depending on the type of reward that you want, the type of contribution that you want to provide. Anything and everything is very appreciated. Thank you very much. Now let's actually talk about survival, because you guys have trolled me about being excited about a lot of other specs, but I don't remember a single time being excited about survival, which is my ex-main, because, you know, she didn't like me going out with my boys. But that's not the point. The point is, the opinions will be mostly subjective, but I did test a bunch of them on a training dummy to kind of see how the rotation flows and kind of see how the resources gather up. Plus, Lego did a bunch of testing in dungeons as well. So we have like a general opinion of the spec. Obviously, it's not as in-depth as it could be, because we need like proper raid testing, back-to-back Mythic Plus, and although we had access to them, we didn't have the time to go into all of the specs. However, survival still seems to have some issues, and we're gonna get to that. First of all, in the general talent tree, if you haven't seen our previous Hunter videos, Marksman BM, there have been a couple of changes and switches around. One thing that you might notice with survival, the legendary from Shadowlands Nestingwary trapping apparatus is gone, which, I mean, that might have been one of the more interesting things in the talent, but hey, it's gone. You still have the traps though, and you'll likely still go for Alpha Predator 110% of the time, giving you 2 charges on kill command. Considering the massive amount of kill command reset mechanics you'll have in your talent tree, there's no way you're not getting Alpha Predator, because you'll end up wasting potential kill command procs. Because we all know that when you have, let's say, a reset cooldown mechanic for a specific ability, if you can have charges on it, it makes it easier to not waste those charges and actually segment your rotation in a way where you can take the most out of it. This is similar to, you know, Echo of the Elements for Shamans, where you have double charges of Lava Bursts. This is similar for, you know, Shield Block for Prot Warriors and stuff like that. It's really good. It's really good. Now, you will have a new talent that you will probably pick, which is Iterated Shots, which I think is in the place of the old Necessary Trapping Apparatus. At least it goes into the Steel Trap, and this increases the damage of dots. It's Serpent Sting and Bleeds. There are not a lot of bleeds that you have for survival. You do have a bunch of dots from the Wildfire, which it doesn't seem like this might affect all of them, but we don't know exactly from the tooltip. However, if you do end up picking Serpent Sting as a capstone, you'll probably want to take Iterated Shots no matter what, since the damage is good, and Serpent Sting's damage has always been decent. However much I dislike what they've done to the Serpent Sting in terms of a talent and build identity, but I digress, since you can still get Hydra's Bite if you so desire, but this comes as a counterpoint to what you have in the general talent tree, and we'll get to that in a second. There is a new kind of capstone, which is basically like a new talent going into the capstone, which is Arctic Bola. It's a 2-pointer, and this has a chance to fling an Arctic Bola at your target whenever you use Raptor Strike or Mongoose Bite, and it deals frost damage and ensnares the target. The frost damage that it deals is very tiny. The snare could probably make sense in either dungeons or PvP. However, whenever you need snares in either of these situations, you would probably want to have control over it and not have a chance to fling the snare out or whatever. So, and if this, you know, DRs any other types of CC of the same type, this might actually be a bad talent to pick because it does unlock stuff like Explosive Shot, which is a very powerful ability to dish out. However, this works for survival. I guess we'll have to see, but this is the kind of cognitive dissonance that we have in the talents where sometimes it just doesn't make sense. I would have seen, for instance, Arctic Bola leading into nesting or trapping apparatus make more sense, since the trap, although deals some bleed damage, it also roots the target. So if you want CC, you can double down on CC. If you don't want CC, you still have to take CC in this case to get to the capstones that deal a decent amount of damage. However, which capstone you'll end up picking, I guess we'll still have to wait and see once the expansion launches, so that we can have some proper testing with the big brain survival hunters out there. Now, the regular talents, the changes are, I don't know exactly when was the last time that we did this, but it's not. Okay, so the identity of survival is something that's very controversial right now because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Right now, Mongoose Bite has always been the single target thing to do as survival, and it's still there, and it's, well, first of all, you do have a bunch of gap closers in the talent tree, which is kind of nice, considering that you're kind of a mid-range spec. It's never really felt like I had problems with a survival hunter having uptime on the boss. However, uptime on the boss is mega important if you are playing Mongoose Bite. Otherwise, like, half of your talents are essentially wasted. So you do have Harpoon that you can take, or you can actually ignore, which I guess maybe that's good, because it kind of sucks to be forced into utility or mobility talents if you don't want to, if you don't feel like you need them. You can get it though. You can also path down to Flanking Strike, which has been changed from Shadowlands. If you haven't watched any of our previous survivals, this is now a heavy single target ability, no longer an AoE, on a 30-second cooldown, and it generates 30 focus, and you and your pet just smash the target really hard. This also unlocks the path towards Tactical Advantage, which is the only way that you can get to this, which increases the damage of Flanking Strike and also increases the damage of Wildfire Bombs, which is weird because Wildfire Bombs are no longer a thing in single target. They have been nerfed, and we'll get to that in a second as well. And if you look around this particular part in the talent tree, you will see a plethora of boring-ass talents that just increase flat damage or reset chance procs for abilities, which is terrible design. I mean, it's fine if we have like 1 or 2, but it's like at least 3 or 4 here. You have Spear Focus, Mongoose Bite damage increased by 10%. You have Bloody Claws, each stack of Mongoose Fury increases the chance for kill command to reset. You have Tactical Advantage that we just talked about. You have Sweeping Spear, Raptor Strike, Mongoose Bite, Butchery, and Carve, damage increased by 10%, not to mention Carve is so undertuned right now that it's an actual joke. Plus, you have, further down the road, Killer Companion, kill command damage increased by 10%. You have a crit chance upgrade in the left-hand side of the talent tree, and more flat damage increases, which I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's okay considering that the kind of talent trees that we have for a lot of other specs in the game, with a lot of cool interactions and cool abilities that can alter your rotation, having these many flat damage increasers, or flat, but, you know, percentage increase, but it's like, you know, you take the raw number and you just increase it by a little bit. That's kind of what I mean by flat. It just feels very bad. It feels very lazy, very poor, and most egregious of all, it feels like nobody really knows how to play survival in the dev team, and I don't particularly like saying this because it's a spec that I'm very attached to, but it might sound mean, but I mean, what other explanation is there? Because there's no imagination, there's no creativity in this talent tree, and it sucks as a survival hunter to, oh, I want to get that cool new ability, I have to just get like 2 points there, and all of them are like multiple point investments. So it just feels particularly bad. There are other specs that have flat damage increase talents, but they're sometimes only 1 pointer or maybe 1 or 2 maximum nodes throughout the entire talent tree. We have at least 5 here, there are more, but I'm not gonna go into all of them because it's just weird. But we are moving down towards the Capstone, which is Spearhead, the new cooldown, which is maybe one of the very few cool things about survival, conceptually. Anyway, which is a 1.5 minute cooldown. It's a 50-yard range charge, which is actually really cool. You just charge from like a gazillion screens away. And basically what it does is you and your pet charge your enemies, striking them for an okay amount of physical damage. And then you become one with your pet for 12 seconds. While active, your pet damage is increased by 25%. Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite deal an additional 35% damage over 4 seconds. And Kill Command has a 20% chance increase to reset. So again, this is all just a lot of flat damage. This kind of feels like the old Coordinated Assault, kind of renamed, redesigned slightly, and it leads into the Capstone, which is Deadly Duo, a 2-pointer investment as a Capstone, which is ugh. While Spearhead is active, the focus cost of Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite is reduced by 10, and Kill Command cooldown reset extend the duration of Spearhead by 1.5 seconds. There are a couple of problems so far with this current design and current tuning, mostly related to resource management when it comes to playing this playstyle. You have a large influx of resources during Spearhead. During Spearhead, you kind of want to, with Deadly Duo, you kind of want to prioritize spamming those kill commands to get as many resets to extend the Spearhead as much as possible, which buffs your Mongoose Bite that you want to spam as much as possible, that you cannot spam as much as possible because you have a lot of kill command, like a lot of kill command resets. Not to mention you are even more reliant on haste to be able to put this type of playstyle and rotation into practice and not feel like you're ignoring focus, or you're ignoring Mongoose Bite stacks, or you're ignoring kill command stacks. You're gonna have to ignore at least one of these during the Spearhead cooldown. And if you want to take Deadly Duo and extend its duration, then you'll likely ignore focus the very most, which is counterproductive. Not to mention that this completely takes out Wildfire Bomb out of your rotation, which I guess it's cool, it's good, but it's also slightly counterintuitive because you still have on the left-hand side Guerrilla Tactics, the old school bomb talent that increases the bomb single target damage that you might have to take because you don't have enough points, or take AoE talent that you're never going to use, and it still feels like a DPS loss. This is my main issue with this single target style playstyle, which has been the crux of survival, let's say, where pretty much the single target builds have heavily relied on Mastery as a DPS increase. However, in Shadowlands, Mastery was a DPS loss if you ever tune into it, since Mastery affected Mongoose Bite the most. And it has still, with the current design, no impact in AoE, Mastery that is, unless you play Butchery, and you will play Butchery, and even if you play Butchery, that's not enough of an argument to get Mastery. But we'll see exactly how this, because this is all reliant on tuning. The tuning needs to be done perfectly to be able to make this rotation kind of make sense, even with the plethora of boring talents that could be replaced to kind of offset some of these issues. I don't know, put a talent that makes Kill Command consume double the focus but deal triple the damage or something like that. Or I don't know, because you have a lot of focus reduction talents for Mongoose Bite as well, so you're spending less focus, you're generating more focus, and you have a lot of procs that are outside focus related situations. It's just a little bit too much nerfing on the focus for something that's very, very busy in a GCD sense. The old Coordinated Assault that you can also access from the left-hand side or from the middle is a 40-yard range also charge. On a 2-minute cooldown. Basically, from the tooltip, what you do is you and your pet charge the enemy, dealing very, very okay-ish damage. It's a lot more than Spearhead, but it's fine. Physical damage. You and your pet then have a bond strengthened for 20 seconds, causing your pet's basic attacks to empower your next spell cast. So Wildfire Bomb can be improved if your Wildfire Bomb is improved, its initial damage is increased by 20%, which is nothing for a cooldown. Kill Shot can have its effect improved, where you will bleed the target for 50% of the Kill Shot's damage over 6 seconds. Now it does unlock two upgrades. It's, first of all, you have Coordinated Kill, which when Coordinated Assault is active, the cooldown of Wildfire Bomb is reduced by 25%. Wildfire Bomb generates 5 focus when thrown. Kill Shot cooldown is reduced by 25%, and Kill Shot can be used against any target regardless of their current health, which is kind of cool. This is purely AoE. This has almost no implications in single target, especially if you go Spearhead, meaning that if you do build towards single target, you will want to stay away from these sounds because they are counterintuitive. You don't really want to cast Wildfire Bombs in single target. At the same time, you don't want to talent into the right-hand side for single target. If you do go AoE, since you'll likely maybe not have time to put them into proper application, considering that you will probably throw a gazillion bombs out, and the bombs are just way lackluster this time around. I don't know if they've simply reduced the scaling of bombs because of what the Survival Hunter does now, which is a very silly thing to do because what Survival Hunter does now is purely augmented by the tier set, which is something that we consistently see them nerfing the base kit because the tier set is too strong, but once we lose the tier set, then we have bombs do kind of, I don't know, way less damage. But hey, this is numbers. We're gonna see how the numbers tune out. And you have some more illustrious talents from the amazing minds that brought you Island Expeditions and BFA and Shadowlands and Nipple Monster. You have Ranger, Kill Shot, Serpent Sting, Arcane Shot, Steady Shot, and Explosive Shot deal 20% increased damage. Now, Kill Shot is a situational ability. You're not gonna have all the time uses on this. Serpent Sting is something that you have to talent into to be able to take advantage of. Arcane Shot is something that you will never ever press as survival, and if you do have to press it, then I don't know what spec we're talking about anymore. An Explosive Shot is yet another thing that you have to talent into. Steady Shot is something you cannot cast. Also, I don't think you can cast Arcane Shot either because it still requires a ranged weapon. Let's say they do make it available to cast. Why would you cast Steady Shot or Arcane Shot or any of these? Why does this talent exist in the game? I don't understand. And hey, get this, it's a 2-point investment because, you know, we cannot have good things. Like, what is going on? I don't know if it has any type of interaction with the talent that precedes it, which is Quick Shot, that says when kill command's cooldown is reset, you have a 30% chance to fire an arcane shot at your target at 100% of normal value. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, because even 100% normal value, that's just dog shit. That's like almost nothing. Why are you going to scale arcane shot higher so that this talent can become valid? I mean, conceptually it sounds cool, right? But it's just weird, man. It's like, I don't understand what is supposed to happen with survival in Dragonflight. And you, of course, you have, you know, Wildfire Infusion and all of that stuff that goes into the playstyles that you are familiar with. Now, this was mostly talking about the single target builds. You might want to take stuff like Ranger and Quick Shot. To do this, though, you would probably have to go through the middle part and get stuff like Frenzy Strikes, which is an AoE ability, although it does affect a flanking strike as well. So once again, you have to talent into both, even if you only want one, and if you're never going to use the other one. And it goes down from Sharp Edges, which is 2-pointer increases critical strike damage by 4 total %. Again, a boring talent just to get to Quick Shot, or you can do a better thing and actually get Viper's Venom. Which Viper's Venom, what it does is Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite have a 30% chance to apply Serpent Sting to your target. What this means is that your target will more often than not have 100% uptime on Serpent Sting, especially if you play single target, because you spam a lot of Mongoose Bites with the single target build. Now, this is on the AoE side of the talent tree, where you are hardly ever going to use Mongoose Bite or Raptor Strike, because you don't use those in AoE almost ever. So it's also a 2-point investment, because it cannot just be a 1-pointer. You have to just sink in all your life savings. Not to mention that if you do pick this, taking Serpent Sting as a talent is mute, because why would you ever take Serpent Sting when you can guarantee it having its uptime? When I talked about this, I think in the last survival video that we had, because this still hasn't changed. And it's still really, really, really weird. And of course, you have all the improved Wildfire Bomb and Intense Focus that you can take, which you'll probably want. And Intense Focus is a 1-pointer and makes Kill Command generate 6 additional focus, which I don't understand why, because in the core design of survival, there's no AoE focus consumer except for Butchery and Carve, and they both have cooldowns. Wildfire Bombs, that realistically are the biggest source of AoE damage, do not consume focus. So I'm confused. So this seems like it wants to promote using Raptor Strike in AoE, which we used before because we didn't really have anything else to do, but it was not a requirement for our build to work, which it makes this particularly weird. And we get down to Fury of the Eagle, the new ability, or I think it must have been the artifact ability from Legion. It's a 45-second cooldown, 8-yard range cone that makes furiously strike all enemies in front of you, dealing very tiny damage over 4 seconds. Critical strike chance increased by 50% against any target below 20% health. That doesn't mean much when the base damage is just very poop. Deal reduced damage beyond 5 targets. So not only that, it's also AoE capped. Kill command cooldown reset reduces the cooldown of Fury of the Eagle by 3 seconds. And you do have the Ruthless Marauder upgrade, which makes Fury of the Eagle now gain bonus critical strike chance against targets below 25% health. So it's not the 20% health that you had from the base tooltip, but now it's 25% health. So I take it that this extra crit chance only affects the 5% HP segment before you get to 20% health, and then they both compile together. And Fury of the Eagle critical strike reduces the cooldown of Wildfire Bomb and Flanking Strike by 0.5 seconds. Why Flanking Strike? Flanking Strike is a single target ability that you have to talent into to get into this. So it's the way that survival seems to be designed. They really want you to play talent into both single target and AoE, which is counterproductive, counterintuitive when you have a clear single target scope of the talents and a clear AoE side. If it wasn't supposed to be broken down into this is single target, this is AoE, because you were forced to take a bunch of both, why not just mix them around and make it slightly less annoying to talent and maybe remove all of these flat damage increasers. So this is particularly the main issue with survival. Not only is the damage very tiny, the resource generation and resource economy needs a lot of work that I hope they really address. The play style that they want to promote is very global heavy, which means that you will want to stack haste like a maniac for the 6th year in a row, which, I mean, it kind of gets boring a little bit after a while. And I don't think survival has ever been more haste starved at any point in time as opposed to now during the single target spearhead rotation. So this is a lot of conflicting things. Like, there are a lot of cool ideas here, but they're just implemented with like a blindfold on and no hands tied behind their back, and let's see how we can make this work. Is just a little bit weird. Now the tier set feels also very single target oriented, although the 2 set increases Butchery's damage as well, because you'll want to go Butchery. Carve just has no damage, and Butchery can end up your top damage in big AoE scenarios, which I guess maybe it's a saving grace with the tier set, but it feels like the tier set might fix this issue, which is something that I think the majority of the players have said. So again, we don't really want tier set to fix the issues. We want tier set to add a cool thing to do. But it's the first tier set. They said that they don't really want tier sets to be something that impacts your rotation anyway, although this sounds like you want to press Butchery more than before. And the 4 set again makes Mongoose Bite cost no focus, a lot more impactful than Butchery when you hit your last stack of Butchery. The tier set can make Mastery come up to the top priority list in single target situation. So I'm still confused exactly at what survival is going to be doing. And we already talked about the resource economy, making Mongoose Bite have a cost reduction fueled into it. Doesn't seem like that's going to fix the economy, because then what are you going to spend? You're already capping focus on, then that means that you don't spend your focus on. And, you know, I guess you probably want to spend it on Butchery, but are you going to spend Butchery on single target? And if you're going to spend it on Butchery and single target, then what are we doing anymore? Are we getting AoE abilities to be the single target consumers? Okay, so conclusions right now. It doesn't feel like a lot has changed from the last time that we covered this, although we did have a lot of stuff not implemented the last time that we looked at survival, and now we can actually play with things, and thinking that playing with things, it might feel a little bit different, and the reality of the rotations might compound into a different result, which it does not. It actually does kind of the opposite. Listen, it all sounds doom and gloom, because kind of it is, but at the same time I do want to point out the cool things. Spearhead is really cool. The rework of Coordinate Assault is really cool, although it does bring the issue of having to wait for your pet to do whatever it needs to do and reacting to a proc in a more of a playstyle that's pretty well determined in what kind of globals you use. Not really many procs, so maybe adding procs into the mix makes it a little bit more fresh and more interesting, but it's counterintuitive. There's the Fury of the Eagle can be interesting, obviously, if it's zoomed properly and it makes it feel impactful. However, there are still plenty of issues with it that kind of take away from all the good stuff that the talent tree is trying to do, and I feel like maybe that's the missing point of survival. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this is the survival that you've wanted? Do you think that just fixing the numbers might make the spec feel good? Well, I wait your responses in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.